Hey guys, it's 𝗪 Welcome to another video. I have a comment I want to read today and kind of go through that was left on my last video about quantum shifting. And it's a good comment, and the reason I want to go through it is because it raises a lot of interesting questions that maybe I didn't cover in that video, and also brings up a lot of points, a lot of misconceptions about that whole concept. So it's a little bit of a long comment, not too long, but and I probably won't read the entire thing, but I'll touch on the main points and kind of dive into it a little bit and talk a little bit about what this person's concerns and questions and curiosities are about the whole subject of quantum shifting. So this one is from Divine Manifester. I like that username. So another great video. Thank you, and thank you for watching, and you're welcome. Curious to know your thoughts about an argument from another popular LOA coach, I guess is what you mean, who claims reality surfing, quantum jumping encourages a type of spiritual bypass. Or in other words, quantum physics or quantum leaping to deliberately shift your state of being into a new state does not work and can backfire. So first of all, we have some semantics going on here. There's a lot, spiritual, quantum jumping and quantum leaping. Well, the title of the video started off with quantum shifting. I don't really, quantum jumping is just another way to really say, I want to get from over here to over there very quickly. Right? Which is just another form of being impatient and frustrated and feeling like, you must have the thing that you want right now. Otherwise you can't be happy, because you can't be happy on your own without it. Which of course, causes you, really, it's just an effect or a symptom of you observing way too much what your current situation is, and feeling that without the thing that you want to manifest the most, be that money, health, or in a specific person, you just can't be happy or complete or feel that way. And of course, as long as you do that, even getting to where you want to be really quickly won't solve those issues for you. It won't inevitably make you happy. You'll just get there, and you'll get that specific person, you'll get that pile of money, you'll get that health, and you'll still feel kind of empty on the inside. So I think what you're saying, what these other coaches are saying in terms of a spiritual bypass, is, accurate in the sense that if you're using this as a way to kind of just another way to get very quickly and very desperately over to some point where you're not, then you're going to have a lot of trouble in your manifesting career. Okay. And again, the reason is really that you have to first off begin by being okay with where you are. It's kind of getting windy here today. You have to be okay with where you are. You have to accept your circumstance as it is, because in being happy in the current moment, even if not everything is exactly the way that you want it to be, you're now releasing your hyper focus on how unhappy you are, how incomplete you feel with the way things are in your life currently. Because the moment you're able to let that go, that's when you're able to shift your attention and your focus to a better way of being. And what you have to do is to embody that new version of yourself that's living that reality that you want to be living right now. You can't live that reality as the old version of yourself, okay? You can't be confident in a wonderful relationship while still feeling unconfident, all right? While still thinking of yourself as not being worthy or being weak or being inferior in some way, all right? Putting that other person on a pedestal and yourself kind of below them. In other words, they have the key to happiness or some kind of power, and I must, ride their coattails in order to get some of that for myself, when that power always lies with you, and the ability to be happy always lies with you, never with anybody else. So yes, in that sense, if you're talking about quantum jumping and quantum leaping, when people talk about that, what they tend to mean is, I want to get the hell over there and away from here as quickly as possible. So in that sense, you're just going to frustrate yourself even more. Okay, because you need to begin with accepting your circumstance as it is. And then from that point, you go past that circumstance, you move past that to a better place of being, a better idea of yourself, and to practicing who you would be, how you would be on the inside, how you would act and speak and carry yourself, and what you would believe as the version of yourself that's living what you want to be living. Okay, so I use the word quantum shifting because quantum shifting is what we're always doing. okay? We're always shifting. I'm shifting right now just as I'm speaking. It's just like film, you know? Film is just a series motion picture film. It's just a series of still photographs moving at a very rapid rate with light passing through them so that to the observer it looks like one solid, smooth motion. But really, this is another universe, this is another universe, this is another universe, this is another universe, you see? So we're constantly doing it, okay? There's no way that you can't quantum shift, all right? But the idea of quantum leaping, I think, as you say, and I think as these other coaches that you mentioned, what they mean, in my estimation, you know, from what I can tell from your comment, is don't try to get away from where you are so quickly, okay? Because that is still putting your observation upon how things are and how unhappy you are. And the more you put your observation on that, the more you put your attention on that, the more that reality of being unhappy and being discontented and feeling unfulfilled will perpetuate. So you have to get to a point first, and as difficult as it may seem, it's not impossible, to accept your circumstances as they are now, and then from that point say, okay, so now where do I want to be? And how do I adjust myself, my inner world, my inner space, my thinking about things and myself in order to become a match to that version of myself that is living right now in an alternate timeline, exactly the things that I want to be living, you see? Again, like I said in the previous video, you can't solve a problem using the same mindset that created the problem. You have to shift your mindset towards the solution, okay? So in that sense, I would agree with them. Now, this idea of using quantum leaping to deliberately shift your state of being into a new state does not work and backfire. Well, deliberately shifting your state of being into a new state is exactly what you want to be doing. Like I just explained, you want to be shifting your state, but you can't shift your state into a better state, a better feeling state, a more self-empowered state, a more confident state, from the perspective of observing yourself as still, I'm a loser, I'm not deserving, why would they want me, I can't handle and manage money, I'm always going to be poor, other people are luckier than I am, it's just the luck of the draw, some people are just born that way, and I'm born this crappy way, and nothing's ever going to change for me. You know, that's a mindset. Okay, that's a state of being. Of course you want to shift that state of being. But of course the idea here is, and I think what you're saying, and the reason you bring this up is, people trying very hard to get away from that and because they think that the new circumstance that they prefer will cause them to be happier, will cause them to be more confident. And you never become happier through outside circumstances. It never happens. If you look at all the good things that have happened in your life that you prefer to happen, if you think back on all those things, okay, every single time, if you really think about it, you'll find that every single time you became happy first, you became content first, you became at peace first, and then the happy circumstances came about as a result of that. It's never the other way around. You can't go from being sad and desperate and frustrated and not loving yourself to, okay, if only I just win that $1 million, if only that person just called me and we went on a date and we started dating, then I could be happy. It doesn't work that way. And manifesting and quantum shifting doesn't ever work that way. You have to first start with accepting where you are, then working through that, okay? Yes, so I think in that sense when they say, well, it's a spiritual bypass, I think what they're saying is, you're trying to bypass the process and you're trying to speed up the process of leaping into this new reality, which will be uncomfortable for you. And I've said this before in videos. It's not a comfortable situation. If you suddenly go from here to now I'm dating them, you're going to have the same problems, if not more problems, as you did if they're an ex, for instance, your specific person, as you did the first time around when you dated them. Okay? You have to first become okay with yourself. And I realize this is what people find frustrating. They're like, well, I just want them to call me and to be with me, then I can be okay with myself. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way. And no matter how many times you want to tell yourself that it does, and you can get back together with them, but if you haven't done the work on yourself, on loving yourself and making your life about yourself and putting yourself first and putting yourself on that pedestal and not them, you're not going to have a good time. Even if they come back into your life all of a sudden and you leap into that reality all of a sudden, it's not going to last very long. And you'll be back at square one before you know it. All right. So this is why we keep repeating cycles and relationship cycles and work cycles and financial cycles in our life, because we're not doing the inner work. All right. Because it's scary. We think we're going to fail anyway. It seems tedious. All right. It seems like hard work. And of course, none of those things are true. That's just a belief that you've practiced about these things. Right. But with anything, it may be tough to start. Like if you're going to start hitting the gym and doing a workout routine, yeah, it's going to be a little tough at first. You have to motivate yourself, get yourself out of bed, get your ass down to the gym or wherever you're doing, all right? But once you get into it, then you're glad you did it. And once it's over, you're glad you did it. And the next time you get up to do it, it's a little bit easier to motivate yourself, until before you know it, you have a new habit. Okay, and now now it hurts more not to go to the gym than it does to get motivated to go there. And so it is with manifesting. You have to practice this new state of being, but you got to do that part of the work, okay? There really aren't any shortcuts. So yes, I think they're right, and I think you're right in mentioning that oftentimes this quantum jumping stuff, and again, notice I don't use that term really. I say shifting because that's what we're doing, okay? But so many times people see it as a shortcut for manifesting. They see it as a quicker way to get there. And that's not what we're talking about. Really, the idea of quantum shifting is just another way of understanding how manifesting works and understanding your position in that whole system and that whole process is that you're not the observer here, folks. You are the creator, but you're creating through your observation, through putting your attention on something, you see. The more you get upset about something, the more that thing perpetuates, the more that thing sticks around in your reality, and it even grows. The more you're angry, the more impatient you are, the more frustrated you are. The things that are making you frustrated and angry and impatient will just grow because you're putting so much attention and focus on those things. That's why it's important to practice the shifting. And I always say this, you will have shifted into a new timeline when you have shifted your thinking, even if nothing around you seems to have changed at all. Even if you feel better and you've been practicing your self-love and all that stuff and self-acceptance, and forgiving yourself for whatever you haven't been forgiving yourself for, even when you do that and you start enjoying your life, whether that person is in your life or not, whether that thing has manifested yet or not, oftentimes you won't see anything change right away. It'll be a while, okay? Because physical reality takes some time to catch up to who you are now. That's why it's so important to remain consistent and to keep practicing that. It will show up. It will come together. But the idea here is that you become the new factor here. You're the one that has changed, not the reality. You got to change first. And what you got to change is your point of observation. You got to change your perspective. You got to change what you're paying attention to, what you're putting your focus on, all right? And once you've done that, you will have shifted into a new timeline. You will have actually become a new version of yourself. Now, all the circumstances, life circumstances and events and relationships and things that are a match to that new you will inevitably come into your life. They will inevitably manifest for you because that new you is the version of you that attracts those things, you see, that creates those things, that manifests those things. So it's never about like I always say, life does not move from the outside in. It moves from the inside out. It begins with you, okay? So this coach's reasoning is that because while there's temporary relief in quantum shifting, the underlying or true state of being inevitably returns since any unresolved issues in oneself continue to resurface. So again, yes, I would agree with that to a point. It sounds to me like what this person might be saying is that you should dig around in your problems and your hurts and your wounds, and pick at the scabs until you've resolved these things. That sounds like psychotherapy to me. Psycho being the operative word there. I'm not a fan. Okay, I'm not saying it doesn't help people. For those of you whom it helps, please keep doing it. But in my estimation, we overuse that whole idea way too much. That let's talk it out ad infinitum till we're blue in the face. Let's keep, digging up the crap that happened when we were 6 and talk about it and examine it from every single angle. Well, what did I just say about being an observer and observing things and those things perpetuating as a result of us observing them? You don't want to keep observing all your problems and all the past hurts and pain and BS. No. You can acknowledge them. You want to acknowledge them. Oh, I see. That's why I'm this way. Okay, I adopted that belief at some point because it served me then, but now it's a limiting belief because I've grown past that belief. And now I still have that belief, so it's keeping me back. So what do? I practice a new belief. I don't dig around in the old belief and try to undo it and try to uninstall the old belief. I try to install a new belief on top of it. So I just start practicing that new belief the way I practiced that old belief until it became a belief, yeah? Because a belief is just that. It's a chronic thought. It's a thing that you practice thinking over and over and over and over until it sinks so deeply into your mind as being truth and solid that it becomes a belief or a belief system, you see. So, this idea of, hey, first you got to dig up all the corpses and the skeletons. No, I would not agree with that. You don't want to be doing that. Again, reality creates itself according to how it's being observed. So the observer is in charge. That's you. You're the observer. Do you want to keep talking about your problems of the past all the time? What do you think will happen when you keep observing the same mistakes and failures and whatever problems of the past? You'll just keep repeating them. New things will manifest that will manifest along the lines of those things that you're observing. So start observing from the perspective of somebody who wins, somebody who's got it together, somebody who loves himself, somebody who's happy, somebody who's calm, somebody who loves, who's confident. And then watch what manifests and happens, okay? And because of this one's experience in that creates anxiety and therefore resistance with LOA because they are impatiently applying techniques, operating from a state of want and not actually addressing what they are feeling. Yeah, well, that's what I said earlier, and I agree with that point. I think that the more you try to move from here to there, seeing it all as a shortcut or something, the more you're operating from a place of observing that you don't have the thing that you want. Okay, if I keep saying, oh, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this, what I'm actually saying is I don't have it. I don't have it, I don't have it, I don't have it. So I'm constantly observing and reaffirming how I don't have something. This is why we don't affirm by saying, I want $1 million. We affirm by saying, I am wealthy, I am rich. You see, the I am part says it's happening now. This is who I am now. This is who I'm deciding to become. And it's always a decision. You decide who you're going to be now. So instead of trying to figure out, well, if I'm going to manifest my specific person or my ex back, or how do I get them to love me more? Well, how do I have to behave so that I can impress them, so that they'll decide they want to be with me? You see, again, that's doing things back ass words. Okay, you want, who am I in that relationship? Who am I that they would choose me, right? In other words, that reality would choose me, that reality would be a match to me. Who would I have to become? Oh, confident, self-loving, not needy, right? Which ties in with confidence, right? And self-love. Becoming joyful, becoming happy, even in the face of circumstances that are happening around me right now that may not be so pleasing to me, because I know that the more I practice being this new person and practice this new perspective, those circumstances will inevitably fall away and be replaced by circumstances that I prefer, that are a match to who I have become now, which is this confident, strong, self-aware, calm person, right? Powerful creator. I'm running out of adjectives. All right. So the coach says it's better to sit with whatever you're feeling then choose a better feeling thought. I absolutely agree with that. And accept where you are. So that's what I said before, and I totally agree with that. And I think that better feeling thought, choosing a better feeling thought, that's really the crux of that right there. That's the crux of what they're saying. And what I'm saying is, yes, sitting with the way you're feeling really just means another way of saying accepting how you're feeling. Not trying to get away from it so much, but just accepting it and feeling it for a moment. If I'm feeling scared, okay, I'll feel scared for a minute. Let's see what it'll play itself out. I'm not always going to feel scared. If I'm feeling sad, okay, let the sadness move through me. All right, whatever that emotion is, let it move through me. Then choose a better feeling thought. Now, remember what I always say, your emotions are part of an internal guidance system, okay? They're speaking to you. So if you're feeling frustrated, if you're feeling sad, you're feeling that in response to something that you're thinking about yourself and your life. You're feeling that in response to some limiting belief that you have that you've been holding on to. So whenever you find yourself feeling sad or frustrated and seemingly for no reason, think about what you were thinking about just before or talking about just before. And you'll usually find that the two relate to each other. If you had a thought of, and just a fleeting thought of, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, you suddenly feel despondent and sad and hopeless. Well, that's your inner being saying to you, well, that thought that you just had isn't going to get you anywhere. It's not going to get you towards where you want to be. So yes, then you choose a better feeling thought. Well, okay, maybe I haven't ever done everything correctly, but things do work out for me, and I'm capable of choosing how I think about myself and the world. I'm capable of changing, and I've done it before. Now you start to feel relief. Now you start to feel a little bit better. Then you understand that's the better feeling thought. Now I follow that train of thought, you see, that line of thinking. And the better you feel about what you're saying and thinking, the more on track you are towards what you want to be manifesting. That's what your internal guidance system is doing. So don't run away from your emotions. Don't try to chase them away. Understand what they're teaching you. And then once you've understood what they're telling you, then you can let them go. You don't need them anymore. Now you're reaching and practicing better feeling thoughts. All right? And that's leading you towards becoming the version of yourself that is the version that you want to be, that you prefer to be. So rather, it's recommended to do vibrational shifting as a gradual process. Since most people have issues when trying to jump vibrational ranges, resulting in feeling discouraged, that eventually has people conclude they don't have control over their own life experiences. Essentially, the coach concludes saying quantum jumping coerces one's vibration, subconscious mind state of being into a new state through avoidance. Well, I don't know if I would use the word avoidance, but what I think, again, yes, I agree with the essential elements of what this particular coach is saying, and of course, keeping in mind that I'm reading your interpretation of what they're saying. But yes, you want to be able to shift gradually. That's a much more comfortable way of doing it. Okay, so in other words, and I've said this many times before, and Abraham Hicks uses this example of being on a train going 80 miles an hour in a certain direction. And now you're going in that direction on the train at 80 miles an hour, but you'd rather be going in the opposite direction, 80 miles an hour, okay? So so I think quantum jumping, and this is what people tend to think of it as, is, oh, we'll just change direction, boom, like that, and it'll be fine. Well, what's going to happen if you're going 80 miles an hour in one direction and then suddenly it changes direction and goes 80 miles an hour in the opposite direction? Well, it's going to be jolting, it's going to be jarring, things are going to fly through the air, it's going to be very, traumatic and uncomfortable, all right? So, yes, you want to slow down the momentum first. You want to slow the train down first. And so that's what you do when you start practicing sort of better feeling thoughts and saying better things to yourself. Well, first you want to really uncouple from that the way you've been thinking, all right? The negative way you've been thinking about yourself, the limited beliefs that you've been carrying. That's why I always suggest first thing you want to do if you're finding yourself feeling very emotionally charged about something, what you want to manifest, or feeling very despondent about it, or frustrated, or impatient, or hopeless, is that you want to focus on other things at that moment. The last thing you want to focus on is the thing that's causing you to be so emotionally charged. So that's slowing down the train first, you see. You do that for a while. You do that until you feel better overall. You do that until you feel calmer, until you don't feel you need things to be different so much, all right? Until you're like, okay, I know I'm moving in that direction. I know I'm going over there. I know it's a done deal. And maybe I want it to happen right now, but okay, I'm understanding the process and I'm leaning into the process. And I know that the more time I take to practice better feeling thoughts and loving myself and making this about myself and being happy and joyful in my life, the easier it is for me to transition into that other reality, that other timeline, that other version of myself. So then you get to a neutral kind of point where you're like, yeah, I want that, but I don't need it. And then from that point, you can begin to build the momentum in the opposite direction until you reach that 80 miles an hour in the opposite direction. So yes, you do it gradually. It's a process, okay? The more you follow the process, the more comfortable this stuff is, absolutely. And eventually, as you practice it more and more, you'll be manifesting like that. Okay, you'll be moving through these ranges like that because you'll understand, oh, I got to do this right now. I got to do this right now. For each case and each scenario, you apply a different technique, a different thing, and you'll understand the better you become at this, and you'll be manifesting like it seems like no problem at all. But right now, as you're learning this stuff and as you're really first practicing it, it may seem tedious. It may seem like a long process. but it doesn't always have to be that way. It may seem that way in the beginning. And I think that's where people get stuck. You're right, and this person that you're talking about is right, that people get stuck in that and they go, well, I want it to change now. All right, I want to learn to walk now. I want to learn to ride a bike now. I want to learn French now. I want to learn the piano now. Okay, now you have to sit and practice it, but it'll get easier and easier the more you do it. All right, so give yourself the opportunity to learn this stuff properly, and don't be so impatient to try to get away from where you are, because the more you try to get away from where you are, again, the more you're observing that where you are is unpleasing to you, the more you seem to be stuck in that reality and nothing seems to move. But again, I'm talking about shifting. I'm not talking about jumping. And it's interesting that you chose the word jumping, right? I know I may have used that before in other videos, but generally I think of it as shifting. It's quantum shifting. But again, we're doing that all the time. I've done it a million times already just in the course of this video. And so have you in the course of watching it, all right? So, you know, every time you scratch your face, there's a version of you that splits off that doesn't scratch its face. All right, every time I sit down to do a video, there's a version of me that says, oh, I'm not doing a video, and I go to the store instead or whatever, okay? So understand that this is, I mean, when we say infinite, we mean infinite, and our monkey minds can't really wrap themselves around infinite, okay? But don't even try, okay? The idea is there are infinite branches that branch off constantly, infinite timelines that we're always moving through. And it always is a process to shift. Okay, you're not going to just go from now I'm single, now we're not talking, me and my ex, to now we're married. All right, tomorrow we're married. That would be ridiculous. And you would go, what? Wait a minute, let me breathe for a minute. No, you're going to have that bridge of events. You're going to get back in touch. You'll sort of, you know, reconnect, up your communication. Maybe you'll go out on a date. You'll have a kiss again. Then maybe you'll sleep together. Then maybe, you know, you won't see each other for a week. Then you'll get together again. Then you'll take a trip together. And some time down the road, maybe in a year or something, you're married again, or you're together again, or whatever it is, okay? So again, it's always a process, because that's how things are supposed to work according to what we agree to when we come into this environment. There's a certain linear way that things play themselves out. From non-physical perspective, it's all boom, 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 right? When we come into this kind of what Abraham calls the leading edge environment, leading edge of creation, to really learn to create with this polarity and through these kind of tedious processes. But it doesn't have to be tedious. It can be very joyful and very fun to learn to do this stuff. So let it be fun, okay? So, definitely not trying to incite a YouTube LOA coach turf war. Well, good. I don't even know who you're talking about, but listen, you know, all of us coaches, teachers, whatever you want to call us, we're all saying the same thing essentially. You know, it's really the same thing, guys. It's just semantics, different ways of talking. I always chuckle when I hear people going, well, that message isn't very Neville. It's very anti-Neville. And I think, you know, if Neville Goddard heard that, he'd be just laughing his ass off. Well, what do you mean anti-Neville? He's just saying the same thing that Abraham's saying, that all these other people are saying, just in a different way, that's all. And really, when you say you prefer one coach over the other, what you're saying is, oh, I just prefer their style of explaining it. I just prefer their style of saying it. I prefer the words they're using are more in line with how I can best understand these concepts. That's all it is. My material isn't going to be for everybody. And somebody else's material isn't going to be for everybody either, right? So, you know, the people I'm attracting to listening to my videos and as clients just happen to, you know, match with my particular way of explaining this stuff and speaking about it. It doesn't mean that somebody else is wrong and I'm right, or I'm wrong and they're right. You know, it just means we have different styles of explaining the same stuff. If you really look at it, objectively, and you kind of go back a little bit, you get some perspective in all these different books you've read and all these different videos you've watched from all these different people, you'll see that at the core, they're all saying the same thing, okay? Manifesting, law of attraction, quantum shifting, it's really all the same thing. God, the universe, higher self, higher being, inner being, it's all the same thing, okay? So it's just a way of which particular style of explaining it and which particular semantics do you prefer, what resonates with you the best, right? So this person, they're not wrong, and I don't know if you were using their exact wording here. I'm suspecting a lot of it was your wording, like saying, it can backfire, or, the jumping and leaping, quantum jumping and leaping might be, I don't know who you're talking about, so maybe it is their wording. But I would say that fundamentally, I don't disagree with what they're saying. I would just choose to say it in a slightly different way. That's all. Okay? So yeah, I think in that sense, they're right. That you don't want to really use this as an excuse to get away from where you are so desperately, because you so desperately need to feel that you'd be happier over here rather than where you are now. Again, I'll reiterate, you need to learn to be happy here first. And then from that perspective, from that point of operating and looking at things, you can then more easily shift towards where you want to be. But if you're trying to get away from where you are now, it's kind of like kicking and screaming, it makes things more difficult. All right, much more difficult and unnecessarily difficult. So I would be in agreement with this other coach on that point. Okay, so then let's from now on say we're not going to quantum leap and quantum jump. We're going to shift, and we're going to learn how to shift effectively and efficiently, and in such a way that what we're shifting into is lasting. All right, that we don't shift and we drag all our crap belief systems, limiting old beliefs that we've picked up along the way, into the new timeline where we're just going to recreate and re-experience the same kind of limiting stuff, that unwanted stuff that we were living and experiencing and creating before. So yes, fundamentally, at the core of it, manifesting and doing this self-improvement stuff, it really is about self-improvement. You're not trying to improve your specific person. You're not trying to improve the politics. You're not trying to improve this or that, the other thing. Okay? You're trying to improve yourself so that you become the point of attraction for what it is that you prefer. You become and shift into the version of yourself that's living everything that you want to be living and experiencing. All right? And that's what this shifting stuff is about. So, Divine Manifester, thank you for that comment. I hope that answered your question. I hope that cleared all that stuff up for you guys out there watching, everyone watching this video. I appreciate the comments, so thank you for that. Thank you for watching, everybody. If you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe and like and comment and share the video, all that stuff. If you want some personal coaching with me, you can do so by following the link down below in the description box, and that'll take you to my website and explain that. And, if you want to leave me a tip for this, you can do that down below too. There's 2 links for Cash App and PayPal where you can do that. And thank you in advance. And thank you for all those who have done so already. I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. And I love you. And I love doing these videos. And so thank you for listening to me babble about quantum shifting. All right. So until next time, guys, I'm 𝗙𝗏, and I wish you happy manifesting and happy shifting. And if you're going to jump, bring a parachute. All right. So until next time, bye-bye.